Most men, even men who have been in intimate relationships for decades, have a significant blind spot when it comes to understanding what their partner is actually experiencing at the most intimate moments of their time together. Not because they do not care. Most men care enormously about their partner's experience, but because nobody has ever sat them down and explained clearly and clinically what is actually happening in a woman's body and mind during intimacy, and specifically during the moment of penetration and what follows it. That blind spot has consequences, not dramatic ones usually, but quiet cumulative ones, a gap that develops over time between what a man thinks is happening for his partner and what is actually happening. A series of small misalignments in pace, attention, and presence that reduce the quality of an intimate experience that could have been genuinely profound for both people. Today, I am closing that gap. I am going to walk you through what is actually happening in your partner's body and mind during the moments of intimate connection. The physiological changes, the neurochemical shifts, the psychological dimensions of vulnerability and trust, and what she is genuinely experiencing in those moments that she may never have found quite the right language to describe. And I am going to tell you clearly and practically what understanding all of this means for how you show up in your intimate relationship. I am Dr. Julia Rodas, a men's sex therapist with over a decade of experience working with different couples and helping men regain their sexual health and strength back. Before we get into the content, please subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications if you have not already. Every week, I publish clinically grounded, genuinely useful content on men's sexual and relational health. Share this video with a man who deserves to have this understanding. And now let us begin. What is happening in her body before penetration and why this determines everything? To understand what a woman experiences during penetration, you first need to understand the physiological state her body needs to be in for that experience to be what it is capable of being. Because penetration experienced in a body that is fully and properly aroused is a qualitatively different experience from penetration experienced in a body that is not. And the difference is not subtle. Female arousal is a process that unfolds over time in a specific physiological sequence. It cannot be rushed without consequences. And understanding this sequence is the most important clinical knowledge a man over 60 can have about his partner's sexual experience. The process begins in the brain. Arousal is initiated by the nervous system in response to psychological, emotional, or physical stimulation, or some combination of all three. When arousal begins, the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system activates and drives increased blood flow to the pelvic region. This vascular response is the engine of everything that follows. As blood flow to the pelvic region increases, the clitoral complex, which includes not just the small external glands, but the full internal structure of crura and vestibular bulbs that extend along the vaginal canal, becomes engorged with blood. This engorgement increases the sensitivity of every nerve ending in the region dramatically. The vestibular bulbs, which lie on either side of the vaginal opening and along the vaginal walls, expand and create a narrowing and heightening of sensation at the vaginal entrance. The vaginal walls begin producing lubrication through a process called transudate, where fluid is pushed through the vaginal walls by the increased blood pressure in the surrounding pelvic vasculature. Adequate lubrication is both a sign of arousal and a functional requirement for comfortable and pleasurable penetration. Simultaneously, a process called vaginal tenting occurs. The upper portion of the vaginal canal lengthens and expands, increasing the total internal depth and creating space. The cervix, which sits at the upper end of the vaginal canal, lifts away from the vaginal opening as the uterus rises slightly within the pelvis. This tenting effect is essential because without it, deep penetration will cause the penis to contact the cervix directly, which for most women is uncomfortable to genuinely painful. The pelvic floor muscles, which in their resting state maintain a degree of tonic contraction, progressively relax as arousal deepens. This relaxation is what allows the vaginal opening to soften and widen, making penetration not just possible, but welcoming and pleasurable rather than resistant. It is worth noting that pelvic floor relaxation is not automatic or involuntary in the absence of full arousal. It requires the specific neurological conditions of deep parasympathetic activation that only genuine unhurried arousal produces. A woman who is physically present but not psychologically safe, or who is aroused but has been rushed before the arousal process is complete, will not have fully released the pelvic floor musculature regardless of how willing she appears externally. Her body has not yet received the internal signal that the conditions are right for full openness. This is why attentiveness to emotional safety is not merely a relational nicety. It is a physiological requirement. This entire sequence takes time. For a woman to be fully and properly aroused, meaning engorged, lubricated, tented, and pelvic relaxed, takes somewhere between 15 and 45 minutes of appropriate stimulation in most women, and this time frame tends to increase rather than decrease with age. For women in their 50s and 60s, hormonal changes associated with menopause affect the speed and completeness of this arousal process, typically requiring longer rather than shorter arousal time, and often requiring deliberate supplementation with lubricant, regardless of arousal level. When penetration occurs before this physiological preparation is complete, the experience is different in every measurable way. The vaginal walls are less sensitized. The tenting has not fully occurred, meaning depth of penetration causes discomfort. The cervix has not lifted, creating a risk of painful cervical contact. The pelvic floor is not fully relaxed, making penetration itself resistant rather than welcoming, and the neurochemical state of arousal has not reached the level at which all of the signals that make the intimate experience deeply pleasurable are fully active. For men over 60, understanding this is particularly important because of what it means for the pacing of intimate encounters, the urgency that many men feel around maintaining an erection, the anxiety that the window of opportunity might close, can create a pressure to move quickly from arousal to penetration that directly works against the physiological preparation that makes penetration good for her. When a man rushes this process, he is not just being impatient. He is, without knowing it, ensuring a less satisfying experience for his partner than the same encounter could have provided with more patience and attentiveness. The practical implication is straightforward. Invest in the time, the 15 to 30 minutes of attentive, responsive foreplay that allow her body to complete the arousal process are not a preamble to the real event. They are a non-negotiable component of the real event, the part that determines whether what follows is genuinely pleasurable for her or merely tolerable.